Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, I hope you are safe. COVID has created extraordinary times and forced us all to think differently on how we interface with each other. And today my presentation is, of course, virtual. I'm Sam MacHour, and I'm the Chief Quality Officer at Samsung Biologics here in Korea. Today, I would like to share with you a little bit of background of what Samsung Biologics is doing in the areas of digital transformation. And I would focus this time on quality and compliance. Digital transformation is a widely published and discussed topic. I will certainly not do it justice in less than 30 minutes. I will focus this time on a few things that could potentially be of interest to you and to your company. And I would welcome, of course, your questions at the end of this session. Before I dive into what Samsung Biologics is doing, I want to share with you a little bit what Samsung itself is about so that you understand the larger context. Inspire the world and create the future. This is Samsung's signature vision. It drives all of Samsung business, including that of Samsung Biologics. Samsung is a company that exists since 1938. It started with a small shop selling noodles here in Korea. It's today the fifth recognized brand in the world. It has 20 plus number one products on this planet and more than 500,000 employees, with most of its revenues are generated outside of South Korea. Samsung revenues last year were approximately $283 billion, with spending more than $16 billion in R&D. And the company is built on innovation. It has more than 184,000 patents and ranks number one for US patent grants 2018. In my slide, most people around the world know Samsung through its smartphones and TVs or displays. Not everyone knows Samsung's other capabilities or businesses. If you understand well how Samsung developed through time since 1938, it is not a surprise that Samsung expanded its business into biologics development and manufacturing. And it's not a surprise for Samsung Biologics today to lead the way in digital transformation across pharma and life science in general. The Samsung Group has businesses in electronics, engineering, construction, in finance, in semiconductors, where it is the number one worldwide, in healthcare, medical devices. I'm sure you must have seen, if you visit a hospital or a clinic, you'll see that there's a lot of Samsung medical devices that are used worldwide. Insurances, banking, cars, aerospace, and biologics development and manufacturing. And to give you a snapshot of what is Samsung Biologics, it's a company that did not exist in 2010. It was founded in 2011. And it started its first manufacturing in 2015. So that's 5 years ago only. Within a 7 years time frame, Samsung Biologics built a plant almost every 2 to 3 years, and it had it GMP ready. In 5 years, Samsung Biologics built a capacity, the largest in the world, of 364,000 liters and grew from 0 to 3,000 employees. Samsung Biologics announced recently that it will be building a super plant, the world's largest single biologics site, which is expected to be GMP and ready by the end of 2022, which will bring the total capacity of the company to 620,000 liters, by far the largest ever owned by one company in one single place. And with capacity, of course, comes flexibility to demand and more out-of-the-box attention to quality and compliance and how these are uh, lived and deployed within the sites. But before I share what we do in terms of digital transformation at Samsung Biologics, I want to take 2 minutes to share with you what I believe, where pharma and going digitals are. Pharma is ranked second to last in digital maturity. This is a study that McKinsey did recently. Last was government and public services. Industries such as food industry, the steel, or even textiles ranked much higher in how much they digitize their businesses and how much they embrace digitalization. Generally speaking, life science companies have been technology change averse because of the impact of those changes have on their business from a regulatory perspective. We all know pharma is one of the most regulated industries, together with aviation and banks. The uncertainties of regulations and government policies around the world have made it very difficult to think out of the box. Instead of limiting your thinking, every time you change anything, that you have to file a variation. Some, however, have some digital plans. These deal most of the time with automation, and most of them are opportunistic, not long-term strategic. Digital transformation is not limited to automating a process that was previously manual. It is sometimes questioning the operating business model itself and how digitization can enable its full potential. Let me now share with you what we're doing at Samsung Biologics. At Samsung Biologics, our vision is to go digital full speed. It's very simple. I'm going to read it, and I apologize for that. Samsung Biologics intend to disrupt the quality, compliance, and regulatory frameworks, operating models, standards for biologics established by industry for the last 30 years. Through the use of digitizations and data analytics wherever possible, wherever efficient, and always in compliance, of course, with current and future regulatory requirements. What you should understand from this mission is simple. Wherever digitization is technically possible, and whenever technology exists, we will prioritize a digital solution versus a non-digital or status quo. We believe that we operate in a business that can exploit the convergence of biologic science with the capabilities of Samsung as technology-driven company. We believe that we're well positioned to take biologics quality and manufacturing to the next level. Why? For a few reasons, or at least for a few good reasons. Number one, all Samsung Biologics sites are fairly new and equipped already with state-of-the-art technology. Our employees are quote unquote new technology ready. The average age within the company is 28 years old. Of the total 3,000 employees, the vast majority is still below 28 years old. Number three is when you look at what Samsung Biologics has accomplished in the last 5 years, which I've shared with you a few minutes ago, in terms of manufacturing, our strength is the ability to execute flawlessly on any project we have undertaken. Now, the reason, of course, is when we think digitization, Samsung capabilities in this area are always at reach. Last but not the least, the company operates as a big startup culture, where new ideas and innovations are critical elements of how we do business within the company. Now, I would like to share with you what we do and what we mean by disrupting quality through digitization. We have, launched a quality digitization initiative. The objective, as I shared earlier, is to limit the human intervention to the minimum necessary and to use those capabilities differently. And to share with you where we're heading, at least a few elements. For quality control, we intend to rethink how testing happens and where. We plan to implement activity-based costing in all our labs so that we have visibility of the cost of goods and all our testing, the same way manufacturing does for production. We intend to automate all environmental monitoring, including utilities sampling itself. And in the future, we intend to use as much artificial intelligence as possible to help in decision making and in predicting or preventing out of trends or out of specs, for example. We hope to use artificial intelligence as well in investigations that we do when we have a deviation. For quality assurance, we expect to reduce significantly the number of deviations themselves, certainly the number of deviations whose root cause are human errors, hence the number of CAPAs reducing compliance risks. Finally, we're working on automating the generation of our annual product reviews, which all of you know, of course, when done manually, they take a lot of time. From a regulatory compliance perspective, our goal is to automate as much as possible the batch disposition itself in a way that it would require very little or no human intervention into the raw data. We intend as well to provide regulatory authorities when needed, when we can, or when requested, full access remote to all our documentation, including our quality records, of course, for specific product at a certain time. We are a contract development and manufacturing organization for our customers. They would have live 24/7 access to all our GMP computerized systems that host their documents. They would not need to be on site in this case. Let me share with you now a few examples of what we have done to date. And I will start with our roadmap high level. The Quality Digital Transformation Roadmap is a partnership between different stakeholders within the company, out of which, of course, quality, IT, manufacturing, engineering, and others. I will not go through the details of the Quality Digital Transformation Roadmap as you see it in this slide, but I would say this. In developing this roadmap, we decided on few criteria that will lead our execution. The first one, and the most important, is security of our entire infrastructure. The second thing is what we offer to clients as an experience drives, of course, what we're doing. Data management and how we plan to enable data analytics is one work stream and one priority that we have in our roadmap. Digitization and automation and how and what we prioritize. And finally, process enablers and oversights. We have progress today across all these enablers and phases. And I'm confident that by the time our Plant 4 will be operational, the vast majority of what you see here would already be in place. This slide, this is a good example of what we did. It's a good example, and it's a simple example of what we did in digitization. The virtual person in the plant is a good example of how to create transparency, visibility, trust, and save cost, of course, by connecting ourselves with our customers. And these customers could be basically anyone, internally or externally. This year, Samsung Biologics migrated and consolidated all of our core quality systems into one, specifically EDMS and QMS. It's documentation management, of course, and all the quality records management. Going forward, we now can allow remote and secure access for our customers to our systems on a live basis. They can do this 24/7 as if they were part of the company or an employee within the company. They can view, they can review, print, approve, and they can view not only a procedure or a protocol, but they can as well view on a live basis a deviation, a change control, or a kappa. Either they're on a draft format or completed. Review them, they can give their input, and they can review, of course, anything that we have published that is specific to their product. This will allow us to communicate much easily and create that transparency and trust, which at the end of the day, it's the patient that would benefit from that. This is valid as well with our suppliers. Our customers can have visibility of our oversight on our suppliers equally in the same manner. This is the second example. It's a busy slide, but I have a slide just after this one where I can go a little bit through more details. This example is where quality is going digital. In fact, in this case, it's quality and manufacturing going digital. This project is specific to our super plant, or plant 4, is to digitize as much as possible and automate all process parameter testing that are tested today within the labs, is to make sure that they are located within the lines. We want to do this to all real-time monitoring of process parameters and react quickly if we have to do so. Let me share with you in the next slide what that means. If you can see this slide, and basically it reflects the process steps from the cell line all the way to fill finish. This is an overview of process monitoring with one of our existing facilities. This is not our super plant. The objective is to test online, in line, and at line 100% of all process monitoring parameters, of course, outside of the excluding the bioburden and the endotoxin. Anything you see in green are currently existing inline testing that we do. You see in black are those that are available that we don't do today. And those are the ones that we will be implementing in Plant 4. In fact, in our super plants, everything you see there outside of bioburden and endotoxin will all be green. A few examples, there are opportunities, density, protein concentration, filter integrity. Those are the test parameters that we will be automating and digitizing in the future. My last example is the implementation of our enterprise data warehouse, which we have just completed, in fact, a few weeks ago. The purpose of the EDW is to consolidate data from all computerized systems. In this case, I've listed some few examples: QMS, LIMS, training, HR, SAP. Maximo is a tool that we use for maintenance and calibration, and exploit the capabilities of each one of them collectively. A good example is capacity planning for the lab, and I spoke briefly about this in my earlier slides. Today, we're able to trace a sample, a quality control sample or product sample, where it is, at which stage it is in terms of testing, who is testing, who will be testing the sample, what is it tested for, and when is it going to be tested. This will help our next stage implementation of activity-based costing, which, additional to capacity planning of the resources that we have, including the equipment capacity, we will have the costs associated to managing a lab supply chain. My presentation, unfortunately, stops here. I hope you appreciated what I have tried to share with you and the last 3 examples. I know it is short. I apologize if this was the case, and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
While we're waiting for questions from the audience, I watched the video presentation as well. Just a little bit about when I hear disruption and digital tools, you know, it sounds like it's supposed to supplant or replace existing things. Is the idea that this is going to build upon existing and legacy assets and interact well with existing systems, or is it actually meant to be a paradigm change?
Thank you for asking the question. What we mean by disruption is basically rethinking in fact, the fundamentals of what quality does within a regulated environment, especially within the pharmaceutical industry. What we mean by disruption is rethinking the role of that quality organization. Digital basically is an enabler of how quality should be governed within heavily regulated environments. Up until now, I think we've been, for the last probably 30 years, the role of the quality organization is defined basically by regulatory agencies at the end of the day. You need to be completely independent. You cannot report to manufacturing or to business units, and then you need to govern the oversight of the quality and compliance oversights over all other functions. So what we want to do is we want to go beyond that. Digital is, I think there's a lot of tools from a digital perspective that exist. PAT exists since, I would say, the last 15 or 20 years. We want to go that step first, is just to make sure that we automate all of the process parameters that we want to do at source. And we do this through, as we call, inline, online, or at line, is just to make sure that we address all of the process parameters ASAP while we are manufacturing. And then the second phase is we would like to use as much as possible artificial intelligence to help us in how we investigate deviations, how we predict variability within our process controls and within our manufacturing. So all of this exists in one way or the other within the industry, and different pharma have it at different stages in some of their facilities. We want to go beyond that, beyond the automating the process parameters or taking advantage of data, is just to make sure that we rethink the role of quality assurance or quality control within regulated environments. And that will take us, of course, into discussions with regulatory agencies in terms of the role. We can imagine that at a certain point, you don't need quality assurance. You either need a quality organization to release the batch to the market. The role of the quality organization will probably become having the oversight over a system, over a computerized system, probably a digitized system that would be doing that role. So it could be basically anyone.
We do have, if I could interrupt, we do have a question from someone who watched the video. Eric Good asks, is digital platform being used to accomplish this a Samsung-derived product, or is it purchased from another company?
All right. Well, just to make sure that the colleague who asked the question understand what Samsung Biologics is. So we are a CDMO, we're a contract development manufacturing organization. So we do development and we do so we manufacture for others. So these are product biologics, by the way, that we manufacture for customers. We don't do it for our own at this stage. And we don't make the difference between our own products or customer manufactured products. So we look at it from a holistic perspective, from a technology perspective, and from a digital perspective.
Terrific. Well, I know we only had a few minutes at the end of this presentation for Q&A. I really want to thank Sam and George for their time, and for everyone who may have some additional questions, or maybe you didn't want to ask it in a group setting, you'd like to have this conversation one-on-one. Samsung does have a booth space in our virtual trade show, so I would encourage you to find them there. Thank you so much.